I've been on a journey of watching Total Drama Island for the first time with one goal in mind: to try and predict the winner of the show before the reveal, and it has been a ton of fun. I tried to predict Total Drama Island, Total Drama Action, and now I'm going to try and predict Total Drama World Tour. And this is how it's going to work. I'm going to be watching Total Drama World Tour for the very first time, and after every episode, I'm going to come in here, break down who went home, who won the challenge from that episode, bring up any hints or clues of who seems to be the most likely to win the whole season, and every episode, I have to lock in two different predictions. One being who I think is going to win the entire season, and two, who I think is going home in the next episode. That way, when we get to the end of the season and we find out who wins, we can look back and see exactly how close or far off I was from getting it correct. So with all of that out of the way, let's jump right into episode 1 of Total Drama World Tour. Hold on a second, I'm trying to get a doctor's appointment. The issue is I'm currently on hold, but you know what? If I use today's sponsor, ZocDoc, I bet I could find a doctor and book an appointment before anyone even picks up this call. The problem is that I'm extremely busy and I've been putting off going to the doctor because I've got Total Drama World Tour to watch, And trying to book an appointment the usual way means calling an office, being put on hold, then finding out that this doctor doesn't even take my insurance. By the time I find someone, they don't even have an open appointment until several weeks later. But using ZocDoc, I'm able to search and compare local in-network doctors. I can see actual appointment openings and click to instantly book a visit. And ZocDoc's website has tons of reviews from real patients and detailed doctor profiles to help me find someone I'll love. And would you look at that? I'm still on hold. But I've already booked myself an appointment on ZocDoc. All I did was hop on ZocDoc and search for primary care doctors in my area, and I found several that accepted my insurance. So then I just booked an appointment for the following week, and I don't even have to worry about the quality of the doctor because they have tons of recent 5-star reviews from other people in my area. The fact that this process was so quick and simple made it a lot easier for me to actually take the time to make an appointment. In fact, I recently used ZocDoc to find a primary care doctor in my area to talk about how I've been having an issue with getting out of breath very easily. I found one that took my insurance, and with just a few taps, I had an appointment for the very next week. Now, I have my very own inhaler, so that's pretty baller. Prioritize your health. Click the link in the description and go to ZocDoc.com/ChaseBridges.
Since the beginning of time,
you guys ready for a little fun?
man has searched the world over,
Japan, Peru,
looking for the true spirit of honest competition, and then crushing it into a million tiny pieces.
one by one, they'll all go down. This should be interesting.
Total Drama World Tour, coming this June to Cartoon Network.
I just watched the 2-part premiere of Total Drama World Tour, and they have added some new stuff this season. Not only are they traveling the world for this one, but they have added 2 brand new, never-before-seen contestants. Oh, and this season, there are 3 teams instead of 2. So let's break those down. Our first team is Team Victory. Team Victory consists of Bridget, DJ, Lindsay, Ezekiel, Harold, and Lashana. Now, as a reminder, Harold and Lashana are in a relationship, and Bridget is in a relationship with Jeff, who is not back for this season. Then there's Team Amazon. This team has Cody, Courtney, Gwen, Heather, and Izzy. Now, if you've seen the first 2 seasons, you will know that Heather is usually the big villain of the show. She has a pretty big rivalry with Gwen on her team. You'll also know that Courtney is a bit of a villain in herself, and she has a relationship with Duncan, who is in the season, or should I say was in the season. It's episode 1, and he's already gone. We'll talk about that in a minute. Cody on this team is in love with Gwen. Gwen had a romance thing with a character named Trent, who is not back for this season. Then there is Team Chris is really, 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 really hot. This team consists of Owen, Tyler, newcomer Sierra, newcomer Alejandro, and Noah. But by the end of episode 2, Izzy and Sierra have switched teams. So now Izzy is over here on Team Chris is really, really, really hot, and Sierra is over here on Team Amazon. Why this is important is because Owen and Izzy are a kind of couple as well. And then Sierra, who is a super fan of the show, seems to have a big crush on Cody. On this team, Noah being back, kind of shocking for me. And then there's Alejandro, who his whole vibe is pretty interesting. He's like the new super hot guy, and he seems very nice. But as we sort of figure out in these 2 episodes, he's actually just playing everyone and is playing the game very hard. I mean, he even says at the end of episode 2 that he's going to make Heather seem like a saint. It's going to be pretty interesting to see. Now, we have 2 former winners on the cast this season, Owen and Duncan, but he's not on the board because he's already out. Well, technically, there's 3 winners. Basically, each season of Total Drama has 2 different endings. There's an American version and a Canadian version. I say American version, but that's just because I'm in America. Depending on what country you were in, you saw one of the 2 versions, right? So back in season 1, Owen won in the version I watched, which is the American version, but Gwen, who was in the final 2, won in the Canadian version. Last season, season 2, Duncan won in the American version, but Beth won in the Canadian version. And typically, I don't even bring up the different versions because I want my game of predicting who the winner is to be very simple and straightforward. And since I've been watching the previous 2 seasons on Netflix here in the US, that would just be the canon winner for my game, right? Whatever version I was watching, that's who the winner is. But that brings us to this season, Total Drama World Tour. It's been like 6 months since my last Total Drama video, and I know a lot of you have gotten very annoyed with me. My comment sections have been filled with nothing but passive-aggressive and sometimes just aggressive comments asking for the Total Drama World Tour video. Hey guys, I've been wanting to make this video. I just couldn't figure out how. I could not find the show anywhere. Like, I was even like, I'll buy it on Amazon Prime or whatever. Couldn't find it. Then someone told me that the whole season is available on YouTube, which I found very shocking. Like, the way that copyright works on here, it didn't even cross my mind that the full season would just be uploaded for free. But I bring this up to say, I am watching Total Drama World Tour on YouTube, and I have no clue which version of the show I'm watching. I don't know if it's the US version that I typically watch, or if it's the Canadian version. But for the sake of this game of trying to predict the winner, whichever version that I'm watching on YouTube, that is going to be the definitive winner for my game. If I manage to predict the winner of the other version, does not count. So with all of that out of the way, let's talk about what happens in these 2 episodes. This stop of the World Tour is Egypt, and so we get a few challenges set there. The first one being Pyramid Over Under. It's a race to the finish line by either going up and over the pyramids or under the pyramids. This challenge is won by DJ and Lashana. Oh, and Harold. He was there too. However, this is the part of the episode where Duncan gets disqualified because there's another rule this season. At random points in the episode, our fabulous host, Chris McLean, who I am dressed up as right now. I got some comments on the last Total Drama video being like, whoa, he looks like he's wearing the same thing that Chris McLean is wearing. And it's like, yeah. Basically, Chris, the host, will say, hey, it's time to sing. And if you don't sing, you are disqualified. It's actually a really funny joke how he was like, yeah, the ratings are really good for singing competition shows right now, so we're just going to introduce that element. Duncan refuses to sing, which causes him to get disqualified. I was kind of holding out hope that he would be brought back into the game at one point in these episodes, But no, at the end of episode 2, he is given a parachute and pushed out of the plane, which is what they do this season when someone's eliminated. It's a bummer, but honestly, it does make sense. He is a former winner. I'm not sure that they're going to do a 2-time winner in this show, which means for us, Owen probably not winning either. I know what you're saying. Chase, what if this is the Canadian version where Owen didn't win? Gwen won. Yeah, that's a good point. Last season's runner-up was Beth, because the winner was Duncan. She didn't get brought back for this season, so we don't really have to worry about her. I guess we just need to keep an eye on Gwen, because she may be a former winner depending on which version of the show we're watching right now. You see how confusing this gets when you start considering the other versions of the show? That's why I try to avoid it, but I just couldn't this time. Anyways, the next challenge is the amazing camel race. Each team is racing to the Nile River, and once they get to the Nile, they have to weave a basket big enough to carry them across to the finish line. But it's not just about getting to the finish line. You have to get to the finish line with the object that was given to you. Team Amazon has a camel. Team Chris is Hot has a goat, and Team Victory has a stick. They all three managed to get to the finish line at the same time, which means that there's no elimination tonight. Oh, wait, what's that? Ezekiel lost their stick, which means that Team Victory has to vote someone out. Now, obviously, they vote out Ezekiel because he's the one who lost the stick. It does not help Ezekiel's case that there's extra stakes this season for the winning and losing of the challenges. The winning team gets to stay in the nice first-class cabin in the plane that they're on, while the losers are in a part of the plane that doesn't even have beds. So Ezekiel is given a parachute and pushed out of the plane. Bye-bye, Ezekiel. Bye-bye, Ezekiel. This is a pretty fun callback to season 1 of the show, where Ezekiel was the first person voted out then as well. He doesn't have a great track record, and, that's okay. That's a fun joke. Now let's talk about the people who we think are going to win the entire season. 2 people are already gone. Ezekiel and Duncan pushed out of a plane. That leaves us with 15 players. And if we assume that there are going to be no former winners of either version winning again, then that means we could go ahead and cross out both Owen and Gwen. Then there's the Alejandro guy, who seems like he's going to be taking over as the new big villain of the season. And what this show has done so far is that the big villain goes really far into the season, but then when it comes down to the final 2, it's always 2 fan favorites for who wins the season, right? And that makes sense because there's 2 different versions of the show, which means both players in the final 2 are technically winners, and you don't want to have the big villain win in one of the versions. That leads me to believe that Alejandro is not going to win the game. But since he's being set up as the big villain, I think he's definitely going to last a very long time. Same with our resident villain, Heather. She has come so close to winning every single season. But that's the thing about this show. The bad guys never win. And after just these first 2 episodes, I'm struggling to figure out who the fan favorite might be for this season. We do get a good amount of screen time for everyone here on the board. So why don't we just go through each one, starting with Lindsay. Right now, Lindsay's whole thing is that she's falling in love with Alejandro. And in the past, she has had a romance with Tyler. Now, Tyler is pretty bummed out that Alejandro is kind of taking his girl. Alejandro is being set up as like a master strategist villain, which tells me that he might backstab Lindsay once the teams merge, and then that would be his first public display of villainy, which means I don't think Lindsay is going to win the season. Since we already mentioned him, why don't we talk about Tyler? Seems like his character arc for this season is going to be him trying to win Lindsay back. My prediction is that maybe he sacrifices himself at some point to save her, and then that's how he gets voted out of the game. I don't know. Even if that doesn't play out, I don't see him being the winner, so we can kind of cross him off of our suspect list. We've already talked about Alejandro. I think he's going to go very far, maybe even final 3, but definitely not the final 2, because the final 2 is always fan favorites. Then there's someone who has almost an identical story as Lindsay at this point, and that is Bridget. What's very interesting about this, though, is she is dating Jeff, who's not back for this season. She seems to be falling in love with Alejandro anyway, even though she's got a boyfriend. But she keeps denying it. She keeps being like, Jeff, if you're watching this, I'm not falling in love with him, okay? Last season, Bridget and her boyfriend Jeff were the first ones eliminated in the season, and they hosted the after show episodes together after they were voted out. I could see a thing happening. Maybe Jeff shows up at one point and he's like, Bridget, what are you doing? I thought we were going to be together forever. And then that kind of leads her to being voted out, which would set up her to co-host the after show again if they're doing that this season. And if that's the case, then Bridget is not our winner either. Then we have Harold. Harold is with his lady Lashana right now. They seem to be doing pretty solid. They've got a good alliance with DJ going on. So if Team Victory loses again and has to send someone home, I think that Harold, Lashana, and DJ would have the numbers to send either Bridget or Lindsay or Bridget home. If I'm being completely honest, I feel really good about Lashana, Harold, and DJ as a threesome that could make it really far into the game. I think any of these 3 players could be the winner of the season. All 3 of them are fan favorites. Harold has had a great redemption arc, a transformation from loser that no one wants to work with to one of the top dogs, to a character that we see quite a lot of. Then there's Lashana, who has always been a huge fan favorite in my eyes, and I was shocked that she did not win last season. So maybe this is the season that's hers for the taking. Same goes for DJ. DJ always seems to be a major part of the story for the season, but doesn't quite make it far enough to actually win. I really like the idea of any of them winning. Then there is Sierra, who is the new girl. She's like a super fan of Total Drama. She knows everything about everyone. She does seem very nice, but also very annoying. I do not see her winning. That could be just because I don't know much about her yet. Which brings us to Courtney. Courtney is always somewhat of a villain. Her boyfriend is Duncan. He's gone now. I'm not sure what her story is going to be now that Duncan's gone. I've never really considered her as someone who could win, but that could definitely change this season. I mean, last season, Beth made it all the way to the final 2, and I never saw her as a character that would even remotely get to the end of the season. There's Cody, who has an interesting new story here. He's doing his typical thing of being in love with Gwen, but she doesn't like him back. But this season, he has Sierra chasing after him, just like how he usually chases after Gwen. This storyline is reading to me as something that will be resolved pretty shortly. I do not see Cody lasting much longer. Noah, on the other hand, frankly, I'm just shocked Noah was brought back this season. When you have other characters like Trent and Jeff and Beth who did not return, it makes me wonder why Noah, of all people, were brought back for season 3. And it seems like maybe they brought him back because he is a character that hasn't really interacted with the others that much due to not lasting very long in the game typically. Maybe this is his season. Maybe he can make it all the way to the end. If I remember correctly, he didn't even play last season, and when he played in season 1, he was like the 3rd player eliminated. I could definitely see a world where they brought him back because they already have the character drawn up, and they're like, well, okay, let's just use him this season, and maybe he could win. Last but not least, there is Izzy. Izzy is such a fun and wacky character. I would say that she's definitely a fan favorite just because of how weird she is. In both seasons so far, she has been voted out pretty early, but she always returns to the game. That being said, she still hasn't come close to winning yet. My guess is that they will continue the tradition of her being voted out pretty early, but then she comes back into the game for some reason, and then maybe she goes the distance, but I think it's more likely they keep the running gag and she gets sent home just like always. Guys, I think my winner pick is between either Noah or Lashana for two very different reasons. For Lashana, she is always a major character, and I just think that she deserves a win. Every season, the main characters kind of end up being Gwen, Duncan, Lashana, Owen, Heather, some combination of them and a few others. 3 of those players have already won, technically, if we count both versions. But if we're looking for a fan favorite to win this season, I feel like Lashana has to win this one. I think that she could definitely take home the W. And then there's Noah, who was brought back for some reason. Like, there just has to be a reason that Noah was brought back instead of some of the other very popular characters. Maybe it's to just shake things up. Like last season on Total Drama Action, the character Justin was brought back from season 1, and he was made into a major character. He was kind of one of the main villains of last season. Now, he didn't end up winning, but he definitely got further in the show than he did in season 1. That could be why Noah is back. Or maybe Noah's back to win. If I have to decide between the two, which I do, I think I'm going to lock in Lashana for who I think wins this season of Total Drama. But I am going to keep my Noah theory in my back pocket. If we get 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes into the season and Noah is still here, then I feel like that adds some legitimacy to my theory that they brought him back to be a major player this season. Now, I need to lock in who I think is going home next. All 3 teams are down to 5 players each now that Duncan is gone. What's his face? Ezekiel. Now that Duncan and Ezekiel are gone. So really, since the teams are even at 5-5-5, any one of them could send someone home next. I want to say Bridget, because I feel like her story is with Jeff, her boyfriend, who is not on this season. And I don't know if they're bringing back the after show that they did last season, but if they do, I like my theory that they're going to send Bridget home early so that way she could be the host of the show with Jeff. And then they can kind of have that storyline of like, babe, I can't believe you were flirting with Alejandro. So yeah, I'm gonna lock in Bridget for who I think goes home next. Man, we are already back in action, dude. Now, I'm a huge Survivor fan, and from making these Total Drama videos, I've become a huge fan of this show too. It's just always a blast trying to see who wins. It's just so much fun. I've got a podcast called, it's a Survivor podcast called Making the Merge, where we pretty much do this exact same thing, but when the current season of Survivor is airing. So if you're interested in that, check it out. All right, let's go watch the next episode of Total Drama World Tour.
If you've ever wanted to see danger,
This is the most disgusting challenge yet!
if you've ever wanted to feel excitement, if you've ever wanted to taste adventure,
Salmonella!
what in the world are you waiting for?
It was a rhetorical question.
Episode 3. This episode is set in Japan. There's 2 really fun challenges here. The first one was a superhuman mega pinball smash, which was like a human-sized pinball game. That was won by Team Chris is Hot, which means that they got an advantage in the immunity challenge, which was making a Japanese commercial for Chef, who, if you've seen the show, is kind of like the co-host along with Chris McLean. He's the chef. He right now he's the pilot, really. He's flying the plane. Anyway, the losing team for that challenge was Team Victory, which means that they had to send someone home. I got very excited about that because what I predicted in the last episode was that Bridget was going to be the next elimination. But that is not what happened. Actually, everyone was going to vote out DJ. I was very shocked about this. But basically, he has a storyline going on right now where he keeps hurting animals, but he loves animals. In hindsight, I probably should have seen that one coming. But then Alejandro from Team Chris is Hot convinces Harold that if he is truly a man of honor, then he would sacrifice himself. So he does. Harold goes home. I did not see that coming either. This episode shows me, though, that we are on the right track about Alejandro being the big strategic villain of this season. That tells me he's definitely going to be around a while. In this episode, we see that Heather, Courtney, and Gwen, the three of them almost lose the challenge for their team because they cannot get along. The only thing that saves them is that Cody and Sierra do the entire challenge by themselves and win it. Now, I'm a little confused on how this is going to play out, right? So, do we get a story where Heather and Courtney and Gwen, they can't get along, so Cody and Sierra carry the team all the way into the merge, and then the three girls vote out Cody anyway? And it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, oh, but he carried you to the merge. You wouldn't have been able to get along if it wasn't for him. And then you just cast him aside the second that the merge hits? Or does the rivalry between the three girls lead them to lose the challenge next episode and one of them goes home? I will say that in the past 2 seasons, we get a whole lot of all three of these characters. We get a lot of Gwen, a lot of Heather, and less Courtney, but still a lot of Courtney. Like, she wasn't supposed to be in last season, and then towards the end, she gets brought into the game. Maybe it's time for these three characters to go home, and then the writers of the show get to play around with some of the characters that they haven't gotten to, write for very much, that haven't gotten as much screen time in the past. And as much as I would be shocked, since Gwen is pretty much a mainstay in every season of Total Drama, I'm actually going to lock in that she goes home next. I just think I'm onto something about getting rid of some of the main characters from the last 2 seasons early on. I mean, we've already lost Duncan and Harold, who were like 2 main guys from the past 2 seasons. So I'm locking in Gwen for who I think goes home. Now, for who I think wins the entire season, I am going to stick with Lashana. I am a bit worried since Harold is gone now. I thought that he, Lashana, and DJ were going to be kind of a trio that goes far into the game. And now Harold's gone. And it also didn't look great for DJ in this episode. If Harold hadn't have sacrificed himself, DJ was the one going home. But I am sticking with Lashana for my winner pick. She's a fan favorite. She deserves a win. I feel the need to say that when I say fan favorite, I just mean opposite of villain. I could say hero, but you know what I mean? Like Alejandro and Heather, these are villains who are like strategically willing to do anything to win the game. Then there's characters like Lashana or Gwen who are fan favorites. They're not necessarily like do-gooders who'll never break a rule, but it's just like they're fun characters that are very likable. So yeah, that's what I mean. Okay. Well, let's go watch the next episode.
It takes a real champion to stand up to adversity.
No, I'm not doing this! Call my mom!
To quiet the masses of fans at their feet.
I just prefer to leave the ladies wanting more.
To endure when others would quit.
Yeah, this is gonna work.
Yes, it takes a real champion to win here.
Wait up! Ow!
It takes a champion of the world.
Airplane food.
Brother, we are getting a lot of elimination. I mean, it's even brought up in this episode that there are not enough contestants to have an elimination every single episode. But then Chris explains that, well, there's not going to be an elimination every episode, but I'm not going to tell you when they are happening. That way, no one can predict what's going to be a reward episode or what's going to be an elimination episode. And he says the reasoning is like, you guys seem to try harder when you think one of you is going home. So now you'll never know when you're not. This episode of our world tour takes place in Canada. The challenge is a big race across a frozen river. And guess who loses? That's right. Team Victory loses again. Once again, Alejandro was a major factor in Team Victory losing. He tricks Bridget into trying to kiss him, and then she ends up kissing a pole and getting her tongue stuck to the frozen pole. Then, because she was stuck, she couldn't cross the finish line and she cost her team the challenge. So she's the one who got voted out. I was so close. If I hadn't have switched my elimination prediction to Gwen last episode, then we would have gotten our first correct prediction, but that does not happen. But Bridget is gone. I really should have just kept my next elimination prediction on her until she went home. I just knew she was going to be going home. Her story is with Jeff, and Jeff is not in this season. I knew she had to have been going home soon. I don't know. Now it also seems that DJ is going to be going home soon. He thinks he's cursed because he keeps hurting animals. He's crying constantly about missing his mom. It seems very likely he's going to be going home soon, but will he be next? I don't know. Team Victory has already lost a ton of players. I think it's very likely that we get a few episodes without an elimination, and then it's time for a different team to lose a couple of players. Speaking of them losing players, we find out in this episode that Ezekiel, who was the first one voted out, he's still on the plane. He is hiding out in the plane. I'm very curious to see if he finds his way back into the game. Even if he does get back into the game, I doubt he wins. It's just the fact that they show us that he's still hiding in the plane. There has to be a payoff to that. I'm thinking it's most likely that he gets to come back into the game. Then there's someone with a pretty interesting storyline right now, Tyler. His whole thing is that no one remembers him. Even Lindsay, who he used to have a showmance with. He says that all the fan blogs talk about him way less than everyone else. And in the challenge, he pretty much wins it for his team. This Tyler storyline I could see going one of two ways. One, he manages to make it all the way to the end. And then there's a big joke that he wins and yet everyone still doesn't know his name. That could be pretty funny. Or in an effort to make everyone remember him, he does something super stupid and gets voted out. It could go either way. I'm not really sure at this point. All I do know is that Alejandro is in full control of the game. He's definitely not going anywhere anytime soon. I don't necessarily see him as a winner, but we do see that in this episode, Courtney, Heather, and Gwen are still at odds with each other. We got a lot less of them than normal. So typically with this show, the more screen time you get in an episode typically means that you're going to be going home relatively soon. So the fact that we saw less of them, but we still see them, but we get less of them makes me think that they might last longer than I thought. I might have to switch Gwen out for who I think is going home next. If I had to put money on it, I would say that these three would probably make it to the merge when the three teams merge into every man for himself. So I need to lock in someone else for who I think goes home next. I think we'll lose someone that doesn't seem to have any sort of story this season so far. Owen, and now I know this is a bold move because Owen is usually kept around a long time in the seasons because he's a comedy, goofy character that's always good for a gag. But I could very much see a world where Alejandro votes Owen out if their team loses, especially with Owen being a former winner. Plus, truthfully, I think we've seen enough of Owen. He won season 1. He was in the final 3 of season 2. If he sticks around for the entire season again, that would be crazy, especially when there's no story or any sort of character arc for him happening so far in this season. I am definitely locking in Owen. Oh, shit. I'm locking in Owen for who I think goes home next. Now, for who I think wins the whole season, I think I'm chilling with my Lashana pick. She's a major part of every episode, but she's not really at a risk of going home. Like, no one's like, oh, we got to get out Lashana. She's not a part of any storyline that is like putting her in jeopardy. And statistically, I think that her team is safe for the foreseeable future. I mean, they've lost so many players already. And if they do end up losing again, I think that DJ goes before she goes. So I'm keeping this pick. Lashana is my winner pick. Let's go watch the next episode.
with the contestants in ancient Egypt.
The amazing camel race.
And tensions running hotter than the weather.
Stand, losers!
Alliances will be broken.
Maybe we could swap teams!
What?
Spirits will be broken.
Yeah, this is gonna work.
And most of all, wind will be broken.
Episodes 5 and 6. Now, episode 5 is a regular episode. Episode 6 is the first Aftermath episode of the season. That's the Aftermath show that they do. So we're really just going to be talking about episode 5 because that's where the action is. Even though, here's the headline, people. No one went home. It was a New York City episode where they had a giant baby carriage race from the Statue of Liberty all the way to Central Park. And even though no one went home, we did learn a lot about our players that will hopefully help us with our predictions. Like Courtney and Gwen saying that if their team loses, they're going to work together to vote off Heather. And there's the fact that Lashana, DJ, and Lindsay are down to just 3 players, but they seem to be working really well as a team. Then Sierra seems to be smarter than I originally gave her credit for. She seemed like a nerdy superfan, but because she is so knowledgeable about all of the players in the game, she's using it to her advantage as, a strategy. For example, Heather is trying to be super nice to Sierra so that way she can get Sierra as an alliance member. Sierra knows Heather's game so well from being a super fan of seasons 1 and 2 that she knows that Heather is trying to manipulate her and she's letting her. Basically saying, yeah, Heather thinks she's playing me, but I'm actually playing Heather. That makes me think that perhaps the reason that she's acting so crazy and being all over Cody is because she knows that he craves Gwen's attention but never gets it. So by giving him so much attention, maybe he will keep her in the game. I'm kind of reaching on that one. He does seem to hate her, but maybe it'll turn around. Alejandro is playing the game extremely hard, and he currently sees Heather as his only competition because she's the only other player who plays the game as hard as he is. And in fact, Heather feels the same way about Alejandro and actually sabotaged his baby carriage to cost him and his team the challenge in this episode. It's really going to be fun watching these two battle it out since they're both willing to do whatever it takes to win the $1 million. But as for my locked in predictions, I think I'm going to keep them the same because, no one went home. Nothing really changed. I'm still feeling really good about Lashana. Part of me does wonder if maybe this competition between Alejandro and Heather could go all the way to the final 2, and then we finally see Heather win a season. I don't think that's super likely since they don't usually let any of the, villains win in the previous seasons. But maybe compared to Alejandro, Heather will not be seen as much of a villain. I don't know. It gets complicated because of the 2 different versions, right? So whoever ends up in the final 2 technically wins. And I just don't see them having 2 villains win the season. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. Let's go watch the next episode.
On the next all-new episode of Total Drama World Tour,
when the contestants travel to an exotic new land.
Japan! Yes!
They will learn to embrace the culture.
It's Sensei. Call me Sensei.
Oh, and stop good!
They will learn to embrace the wildlife.
Cute!
They will learn to embrace each other.
Group hug! Back off!
It's episode 7, and I've got some terrible news here. Lashana went home. This is a different level of embarrassment. Like when the person that I have locked in to win the game goes home, not even at the end of the game. I mean, 7 episodes in, and the person that I have locked in to win the entire thing is gone, dude. I need to lock in. I need to focus. I think the issue is maybe I've been too chill. I think I've been a little bit too chill. I get excited in these videos. And I got a comment on a video recently being like, will you stop talking to me like I'm a child? I just get excited, okay? And then I start doing that kind of like YouTube-y voice because I'm excited and I'm talking to myself in an empty room. And so I purposely went into this one like, all right, Chase, let's be chill. Let's take it calm. We've done this twice before. We've already predicted, not correctly, we've already predicted 2 seasons of this show. We know what we're doing. Let's go into this and chill, man. It doesn't have to be a big to-do. It doesn't have to be chaos. Maybe it does. I need to lock in. I need to focus. Because one thing that this has told me, right? This sucks that Lashana went home. It's very embarrassing. Come on. Lashana's gone. That sucks. But one thing that this told me is that Alejandro, whenever he starts targeting an individual and flirting with them, it seems like they go home shortly after. I need to stop worrying about if they would let a villain win the season. What I need to do is look at him like he is a kiss of death. He had Bridget head over heels in love, then boom, makes her kiss a pole and he's gone. Then he had Lashana swooning, boom, she's out too. The only person who seems to see through him and see him as a villain is Heather. So Alejandro is definitely the villain of the season, but who is our hero? Who is our main character? I felt so good about Lashana because she gets a lot of screen time every episode and she's always a lot of fun. She's very likable. But now I don't know. I have no clue who to even lock in for who I wins the whole season. One, because I'm scared. Because what if I do it again? What if the person that I pick right now to be the entire winner of the season goes home next episode? I don't think I could finish this video if that happens. Let's calm down. Let's calm down. There are several options for who could go home next. Let's start there. One thing that we need to point out. Team Victory is the only team that's lost any players. The other team has not, other teams, forgive me, pardon me for misspeaking. They haven't lost anybody. And if you ask Sierra, the super fan, she's throwing out some stats, brother, and she's saying statistically, it's time that team Chris is really hot loses a player. Because if, she says something like, if you win 6 in a row, then you get overconfident, you get overconfident, and then you end up losing someone the next episode. But that did not happen because Lashana went home. Team Victory only has 2 players left, guys. I know we have a visual aid here, so you know that. There's just 2 players left. DJ's whole story right now is about being cursed, and he's hurting animals. Truthfully, I feel like that storyline has kind of played out by now. We've kind of jumped the shark on that one. I would not be surprised if he did go home next. Then there's Lindsay. Really isn't doing anything right now. She doesn't have like a real story. She doesn't have any sort of character arc, which means that she could go home at any second. And maybe they're doing a thing since there's 3 starting teams this season instead of just the 2 that they usually do. Maybe they're purposely eliminating every player on one team so that way it'll drop back down to 2 teams, which is what they usually do. That genuinely feels like what the writers would do, right? Just story structure-wise. If we eliminate an entire team, then we go back to our 2-team format going forward, and we don't have to worry about shaking things up too much. So a big part of me wants to lock in DJ for who goes home next. But then there's some other options here, man. Tyler had a story going on about how no one ever remembers him or talks about him. But in this episode, Lindsay finally remembers who Tyler is. That kind of finishes up this whole storyline. He's kind of done. He could go home at any second. His purpose for being in the show has wrapped up. Then there's Noah, who is still in this game but has not done a goddamn thing. I haven't been keeping count, but he definitely has the least amount of screen time from any character in the show right now. He could go home right this second and it would not affect the show at all. I also feel like Owen could go home at any moment since he has no storyline going on either. Then again, that's kind of his whole MO, right? He makes it super far every time just because he's silly, goofy, and fun. Which, speaking of silly, goofy, fun, there's Izzy, who, like Noah, barely in these episodes lately. It's such an interesting situation because I can see pretty much anyone going home next. So here I am. I have no idea who's going to win this season. Anybody could go home next. I mean, my best bet right this second is that I'm right about how the writers of the show are going about the teams. I'm going to lock in DJ for who I think goes home next. It just makes a lot of sense to me that they want to eliminate a whole team, so that way it goes back to a 2-team format for the show. It simplifies things. You don't have to worry about your audience, which, remember, this is a kids animated show that was on Cartoon Network. They don't want it to get too complicated. Now, as for who wins the whole season, I have no idea, dude. Like, Lashana going home has really rattled me. I need more information. Like, right this second, the only thing I really know is that Alejandro is the villain of the season. That is clear. There's not a clear hero. I mean, even Gwen, who is normally a major part of the seasons, she does not seem to be doing too much right now. Part of me is like, is this the season where a villain wins? I mean, there's this whole dynamic between Alejandro and Heather, and it's like a competition against the two players who are playing the hardest strategy-wise. And it's just like, maybe the show gives it to someone that hasn't had an opportunity to really be in the show. I mean, Noah was gone so early in season 1, he wasn't even in season 2. Maybe this is finally his time to shine. And the reason that he's been getting barely any screen time is because they're just going to let him kind of coast to the end. I mean, it's either that or a villain wins this season, dude. I think I got to lock in Alejandro. He's the only player who I have any sort of read on right now. And I'm so fucking scared that I'm going to lock in a winner and they're going to go home next episode. I'm 9,000% sure Alejandro is not going home next episode because he is in the middle of this whole rivalry with Heather. So unless Heather goes home next episode and then Alejandro no longer has that kind of rival to play off of, then maybe he could go home. I mean, if Heather goes home next episode, definitely changing my winner pick. But for right now, this feels like the safest option. We're only 7 episodes in right now. There's a ton of show left. Lots of ball game left. I need to take a deep breath. We're not going to panic. There's plenty of time to nail this. Hey, it's episode 7, bro. We still have like 20 episodes. I'm going to just lock in Alejandro because I know he is not going to go home next. And I'm going to lock in DJ because I think he is going to go home next. Let's move on.
On the next all-new episode of Total Drama World Tour, when the gang heads to the icy north.
Come on! There's nothing colder than the competition.
Did I just hit a baby seal?
And these contestants will do anything to stay warm.
Oh, I kinda have a boyfriend.
And we mean anything.
You can cuddle me, buddy. Did not see that coming.
Episode 8 takes place in the Amazon. It is a hike through the rainforest until you get to Machu Picchu. And for the very first time, Team Victory wins, and they do not have to send someone home. Team Amazon, ironically, are the losers, and they have to go to the elimination ceremony. They all vote Heather, except for Cody, who tries to vote out Sierra, which she sees and is heartbroken over. But then Chris says, psych, this isn't actually an elimination episode. This is a reward episode. Nobody's going home. Bro, this season's pulling out all the stops, dude. I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what's going to happen next. I thought Heather was about to go home, and I was shocked because I even brought that up last episode. Remember, I was like, yo, if Heather goes home, then that means Alejandro's story is up, and he's probably going home. And I was like, yo, did I fucking call that? And it's just like, I was really shocked that she was about to go home. But then, you know, Chris was like, psych, no one's going home. I'm spiraling. And speaking of spiraling, Alejandro has turned into a full-on supervillain. I mean, he even gets an eye patch this episode. He tries to have Owen killed by giant caterpillars. I think I'm dead accurate about him being the villain who goes all the way to the end, but I don't think he wins, dude. The hero always wins in this show. And just like how I've said a million times in this video, I have no idea who the hero exactly is yet. Part of me is like, okay, Cody is getting a lot more screen time this season. Does that make him the hero? But now that Sierra knows that Cody tried to vote her off, I feel like this storyline between them is wrapping up, which means that either Sierra or Cody will be going home soon. So I feel like I kind of just need to keep Alejandro for my winner pick right now because he's the only person that I'm confident in not going home anytime soon. Also, an important thing that we need to take note of is that Heather has her elimination teased, but it's not followed through on, which means that she could potentially be the winner, right? She's Alejandro's clear rival. So that would make for the best story. The two of them are battling it out until the end. But I'm really scared of having something like what happened with LaShawna happen, where I put someone as my winner pick and then they go home. I feel very confident that Alejandro is going to be sticking around for a while. And if Heather manages to stick around for more than a few eliminations, I will strongly consider locking her in. But even that, she doesn't feel like a hero. Like, even though she's not as much as a villain as she is in the past 2 seasons, she still is a villain character. As for who I think is going home next, I think DJ is still a good pick. Their team won this episode. But then the big twist of the episode is that this episode was not for elimination. So I do like my theory that they're trying to get rid of the whole team victory. I'm going to keep it on DJ. One more thing that I want to point out is that Noah and Izzy practically not in this show anymore. They had like a 5-second moment in this episode, and that was pretty much it. I don't know if that means that they're both going to be sticking around for a while, or if they're going home soon. I mean, there's part of me that's like, when you watch Real Survivor, which, you know, this show is a spoof or a parody of Survivor. When you watch Real Survivor, the winner is always kind of like around, but not always prevalent in the edit every single episode. So there's a part of my brain that's just like, well, maybe Noah and Izzy are going to be making it really far. And right now, we're just getting a bunch of entertaining stuff with all the other characters that aren't going to make it very far. It's just so fascinating. I really thought that season 1 taught me a valuable lesson about how to pick the winner in this show. Owen was always around. He's always being a funny character. He's a major part of the show, even though he never has any like real storylines. So I took that into season 2, and it was totally different, right? That season, Duncan won after being a major part of the show, but he had a ton of core storylines throughout the season, right? Like his relationship with Courtney. And now in this season, season 3, it feels totally different. It's like they're giving out a balanced amount of screen time to everyone except for Noah and Izzy. And that kind of makes it hard to figure out who the main characters of the show is, right? So it's like, if right now I had to just say, who's the character that feels like they're the most important to the show? I would say Alejandro, because he's the big villain, right? And the big villain doesn't usually make it to the final 2 unless you count Duncan as a villain. He won last season. I don't count Duncan as a villain. It's just all so complicated. I think the issue is this show is not supposed to be thought of in this manner. I don't think a grown man is supposed to lock himself in a room and stress about who's going to win the season. I don't think that's the intended demographic. I don't think that's the intended way to consume this art. I think it's supposed to be a ha-ha fun time silly show. And instead I've made it, fuck, I'm stressed. I don't know. Let's just keep watching the show.
When the game heads to the mountains of Germany.
Whoa, aren't those the Alps?
And the contestants face the unspeakable.
This is the most disgusting challenge yet!
It's beautiful.
The gauntlet will be thrown down.
Did we win?
And undercooked sausage will be thrown up.
Less yakking, more packing.
Okay. Episode 9. I think we're on to something, folks. I thought that we were about to get our very first correct elimination prediction. It's a France episode. They have to search the Louvre for statues, right? So Team Victory, which only has DJ and Lindsay on it, they lose once again. Just like every elimination this season so far, one of them is going home. And DJ is so happy to go home, bro. He does not want to play the game anymore. He wants to leave. And the whole episode, I'm over the moon, right? Because I need this win. I need some momentum to help me through this season. DJ's like, I'm going to vote for myself. I am going to go home. And Chris is like, not so fast. Since there's just two of you, we're going to do a challenge to decide who goes home. And it's a fashion challenge. DJ tries to throw the challenge, and yet he still wins. And fucking Lindsay goes home, dude. I feel smart on one hand, right? Because I knew it was going to be someone from Team Victory. I had a 50-50 shot on who it was going to be. I got it wrong. I said it was going to be DJ. It was Bridget. Now, not Bridget, Lindsay. So here's where things can get interesting, right? Now, my theory that they're going to eliminate the entire Team Victory so that way we can get down to 2 teams, that's feeling like a good theory, right? That feels like it's definitely what's going to happen. It makes the fact that the team is called Team Victory very funny joke. Another funny joke is that DJ could spend the rest of the game trying to go home, but not getting to. That's hilarious. If DJ wins this season after actively trying to be eliminated every episode, that's just good TV, bro. But genuinely, I think the writers are trying to get it down to 2 teams, and this is the easiest way to do it. DJ be the next one to go. Then once he's gone, it's Team Chris is hot and Team Amazon. And we're left with some pretty interesting options for who can win this thing, right? So Team Amazon has Gwen, Courtney, and Heather, that trio that are always at each other's throats. But they also have Sierra and Cody, who have this whole romance storyline going on. Like in this episode, Sierra is crying the whole time because Cody tried to vote her out, right? So she's crying. Cody's trying to get her to stop crying. And by the end of the episode, he tells her that he actually kind of misses her obsessing over him, right? And then Sierra kind of lets us in on her thought process, which was that she was kind of playing him, which makes me think that she could be like a dark horse pick to win the whole season. But then how much longer is this storyline going to last with her and Cody? I feel like it's been at the forefront of so many episodes so far this season. And the show is just really good at having a storyline be important for a few episodes. Then once that storyline runs out of steam, boom, those players are eliminated. Then let's take a look over here at Team Chris is really, really, really hot. Alejandro currently has his sights set on Owen. And as we've learned so far this season, when Alejandro dislikes someone, they go home. This team hasn't lost an elimination challenge yet, so they haven't had to send one of their own home yet. But I'm betting the second that they have to, Owen is the first one gone. Then there's Tyler. Tyler just lost his only storyline partner, Lindsay, but he got redemption and was remembered by her. But now she's gone. So what's even left for Tyler? Not much. Then the team has Noah and Izzy, who have been getting such little screen time, except for this episode. Noah gets 2 really big moments. One is like a little funny joke moment at the beginning, and then in the challenge, he's the one who wins it for his team. There is a world where Noah, who isn't in the show very much, becomes a major character in the second half of this season and wins the whole game. I do feel really good about DJ being the next one to go home, so I'm just going to stick to my guns there. This is usually where I would panic that I'm wasting too many picks on the same person over and over again, so I would switch it. And then DJ would go home, and I would have missed my opportunity, but not this time, bro. Not this time. I'm sticking with DJ. Now for my winner pick, watch this. Sierra has a storyline with Cody. So when that storyline is wrapped up, they both go home. Then we have Courtney and Gwen. Their only storyline is with their rivalry with Heather, which I also don't see going very far. Heather currently has a storyline with Alejandro that I imagine either ends with Alejandro tricking her and sending her home, or her tricking Alejandro and sending him home. Tyler no longer has his storyline with Lindsay because she just went home, and that means that he's about to follow her out of the door, literally. Or he's going to get a new storyline that would let him stick around to the end. Either way, That's very interesting information. Noah has no storyline. Izzy has no storyline other than the fact that she's dating Owen. And if I use everything that I just said, everything I just broke down, I can assume that Sierra, Cody, Courtney, Gwen, Owen, and DJ are not going to win. Then we have 3 wildcard players. We have Noah, Izzy, and Tyler, because they don't seem to have any storylines for the foreseeable future, which means that they could either be going very far or be eliminated very soon. Then we have Heather and Alejandro. They're the main story right now. So the question is, okay, are these our final 2? Then the story becomes, well, who's the better player? Who's the better strategist? Well, I don't think so. I don't think that that's how it's going to go. And here's why. We still have like 17 episodes left. Some of those episodes are going to be aftermath episodes. Some of those episodes are going to be reward episodes where someone does not go home. But one thing that always seems to happen in Total Drama are that players either return or get thrown into the game. For example, Courtney last season. Izzy returning to the game in both season 1 and season 2. I think that we are going to see either some players that didn't return for this season, like Trent or Eva, brought into the game at some point, or some players that have already been eliminated brought back, like Duncan or Ezekiel. My theory is that since we are still so far from the end of the show, that the storyline between Heather and Alejandro is not going to last for 17 more episodes. I think that it might resolve relatively soon, maybe at the halfway point of the season. Then it will transition into a new major storyline. It could be something like the remaining players in a team versus a new team of former players that are joining the game. That could become the new story, and that would explain why they're trying to get it down from 3 teams to 2. Or perhaps someone like Noah or Izzy will get a big story push in the second half of this season. And I think that might be why I'm having such a hard time this season, because the game that we're currently watching is going to be very different from the game that we get by the time we get to the end. Does that make sense? Like, right now, if you look at the players, you're like, okay, Heather and Alejandro seem to be the only 2 that matter right now. Everyone else is either not in a storyline or they're in a silly storyline that will definitely be resolved soon. Like DJ with his whole I'm cursed to hurt animals thing. I mean, Gwen and Courtney have been doing pretty much nothing, which is so unlike them. They are usually major parts of the season's story. I just have this feeling that everything is about to change from a big twist. So I'm actually going to switch my winner pick from Alejandro, and I'm going to lock in someone who does not seem very important right now, but might become super important after my theorized shakeup of the game. That person is Izzy. Now, I know, that kind of seems crazy, right? Hear me out. She is barely in the episodes right now, other than her usual antics, right? Like she crashes the plane because she's so crazy. But Izzy is a character that was a major part of both seasons 1 and 2. She's entertaining no matter what is going on. She doesn't even need other characters to bounce off of. She's just doing crazy shit constantly. And she is clearly more of a fan favorite character instead of a villain like Alejandro. Season 1, the final two characters in season 1, Owen, who was the comic relief silly character, versus Gwen, who was the hero of the season. She had a battle against the evil Heather. Then the comic relief guy won that season, Owen. Then let's check out season 2. The final 2 was Beth, silly underdog character, versus Duncan. Now, to call Duncan the hero of the season might be a bit of a stretch, but I wouldn't consider him a villain by any means, and I'm personally a big fan of that character. So I would say that he's like a fan favorite or a hero type for that season, and he won. So logic tells me that if this season's final 2 is anything like the final 2 from the previous 2 seasons, we will get some sort of combination of a silly, goofy character and a season-long strategist. And I think that that means that the final 2 will be between Izzy and Heather. Heather overcomes her rivalry with Alejandro, sends him home packing. Now, she has become something of a hero for the season. She's not really a hero because she's still very villainy, but since she took out the big villain, it makes her hero by proxy. Then we have Crazy Izzy, who doesn't stand a chance. And it's like, oh, who's going to win? Izzy. I'm locking it in, dude. I feel like I finally found my footing for this season, so we're going to keep on watching the episodes.
Deep in the heart of the Peruvian jungle,
Who wears undies in the Amazon?
the game is heating up.
Even you couldn't resist me forever.
And to win here, you need to be prepared, feared, and ruthless.
I've never been so scared of a friend before.
But we'll settle for scared, weird, and toothless.
Is my missing tooth that hideous?
Episode 10 was based around Newfoundland, and the challenge was a boat race that led to a challenge which consisted of drinking something gross, translating a saying from Chris's cousin, and kissing a fish. While this episode was not an elimination episode, I do feel like it gave us a ton of information about what to expect going forward. The very first thing that happens is that they tease that Heather and Alejandro might be a future showmance, and that is very interesting. That adds an additional layer to their already heated rivalry. Get it? Heated rivalry? It's a reference to a popular show. It's like, I'm trying to do kind of witty banter in this YouTube video. So I reference something that's popular online in a clever way because, they have a rivalry. And then the whole thing with heated rivalry is that they have a rivalry, but it's also a love story. And that situation applies to this situation. You see, it's funny. You should laugh. Why didn't you laugh? You laughed. You laughed. Come on, dude. The thing that really interested me the most in this episode is that they reference Duncan a ton. I mean, it's made extremely clear that not only does Courtney miss her boyfriend, Duncan, but Gwen misses him too. And it's heavily implied that she has a huge crush on him. I think it's pretty obvious that means that Duncan is going to be coming back into the game. That is going to lead to a big love triangle storyline with Duncan, Courtney, and Gwen. Very fascinating. Very interesting. Then DJ keeps trying to throw the entire challenge. Dude, I mean, Heather and Alejandro are both trying to convince him to join an alliance with either one of them. And he's just like, I want to go home. So Heather spends the entire episode tricking DJ into winning the challenge. Finally, Alejandro swoops in and he causes DJ to win while also convincing DJ that his curse of hurting animals is over. So DJ is so appreciative that he is no longer hurting animals that he thanks Alejandro and he's like, I'm going to stay in the game. This opens up some possibilities for us with DJ. This could mean that he is now going to try to stay into the game. He's going to work hard to win challenges and he could stay a while. Or the irony would be that he kept winning when he wanted to quit, but now that he's wanting to stay, he goes home next. I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but if Alejandro is wanting DJ as an ally, I can see a world where DJ stays for a while, especially if Alejandro's team loses next and has to finally send someone home. Because Alejandro really hates Owen. And we even get a reminder of that at the end of this episode when Owen puts his disgusting socks in Alejandro's food accidentally. Every bone in my body is screaming to stick with DJ as my next eliminated pick. Because if he goes home, then that means that we're down to 2 teams instead of this weird thing that we have right now where there's 2 teams and then DJ by himself. But also, every time this season that we see Alejandro have beef with a player, they go home. So I do think that I am going to switch my pick to Owen. God, I hope I don't regret this. No. Nope. I can't do it. I'm keeping DJ. I will never forgive myself if I switch and then DJ does go home next week. If DJ does not go home next episode, I'm switching for sure, because then I think that means that DJ sticks it for the long run. But the fact that he is the only person on his team and he actually wants to stay in the game now, it's gotta be him. And I just wouldn't forgive myself if I switched and missed out on this, what could very well be an easy opportunity to finally get an accurate prediction. As for who I think is going to win the game, I think I'm sticking with Izzy. But I will say I'm seeing the shape of a new major story kind of take place. The Courtney, Duncan, Gwen love triangle, the storyline of Courtney and Gwen competing for Duncan's heart. It could definitely take over the second half of this season, and since Gwen is technically a former winner, then I think it could be a thing where Courtney goes on and wins the season, right? Check this out. Maybe it's a thing where Courtney and Gwen are competing, and there is a moment where the two of them have to choose between having Duncan or winning the $1 million. Courtney chooses the $1 million. Gwen and Duncan could have a sweet moment. Courtney would look like a deserving villain who chose money over her boyfriend. That would make a very entertaining story, right? I'm going to keep Izzy for now, but if I'm somehow right and Duncan comes back into the game, well, then I'll know I'm onto something, and I will probably switch my winner pick over to Courtney. I will say the amount of times they brought Duncan up in this episode, I will be shocked if he does not end up back in the game. But there's only one way to find out, and that is by continuing to watch. So let's go watch the next episode.
Contestants head to Paris, home of the most expensive art.
Acrylic.
The most expensive fashion.
It's a walk-off.
Oh man, I hate walking.
And the most expensive damage.
What does this button do?
We could squeeze into one show.
Fuck. Okay, we have good news and bad news. I just watched episode 11, and then episode 12 was an aftermath episode, so I went ahead and watched that one too. But let's start with the good news, right? I stuck with my guns. I kept DJ as my next elimination, and I was right. I am so glad that I didn't change. That would have been so embarrassing. I don't think you guys realize how close I was to really switching last episode from DJ, because I always feel like when I keep the same prediction for several episodes, it just kind of feels like cheating. Because it's like, well, if I keep locking in the same person, eventually they are going to go home unless they win. And it's just like a bad strategy too, because I essentially wasted the last 4 locked in picks because I was sticking to DJ, right? And the goal is to predict as many eliminations as possible. I would really like to get like at least 4 of them before the end of the season. And you can't really do that by just sticking with one person and hoping they go soon. But it did work out. It did work out this time. Now for the bad news. I have once again lost my winner pick. I don't know what it is about this show, bro. It's my kryptonite. I always think that I've got a good read on the show, and then boom, I'm back to not understanding anything. I really saw Izzy as going on to be the goofy comedy character that makes it to the final 2. Just like Owen and Beth before her. But in this episode, the plane lands on her head. And when the plane lands on her head, it clears a blockage in her brain, which was making her crazy. So now she's a super genius, and the military comes and takes her away from the game because she may or may not have invented time travel. It's just my luck, dude. However, what I will say is that every season, Izzy gets eliminated and then comes back into the game. So that could still happen. If I was a braver man, I would keep Izzy as my winner pick and ride it out. But alas, I am nothing but a coward. In the aftermath episode that happens after this episode, Izzy gets hit in the head again and goes back to being crazy. Honestly, it's a pretty good sign for me that she could end up back in the game, but I'm still going to be changing my pick to someone that is still in the game. I've already had 2 of my winner picks be eliminated. I think this is the worst I have done in a total drama prediction video. in order to try to gain back some respect, I've got to really nail this one this time, dude. If it happens again, I do need to set up some sort of punishment, right? Like comment down below some sort of punishment that I have to do if another one of my winner picks is voted out. I'll pick the best one. I'll pick the best punishment comment. But hopefully that doesn't happen again. One thing that I remembered while watching this episode was that Ezekiel is still in the plane. They have not shown him in a while. But there's got to be some sort of payoff to that whole storyline, right? Like, why would they show us that he's still on the plane and then just never do anything with it? We also have 10 players left and like 15 episodes to go. And while it's not impossible that 6 or so of those episodes are either reward episodes with no eliminations or they could be aftermath episodes, it's just number-wise feeling like we're going to get at least one player brought back into the game. It's been teased that Ezekiel is still around. Gwen and Courtney keep bringing up Duncan. And Izzy always returns every single season. So maybe we will see all 3 of them brought back into the game at some point. And if that's the case, I still don't think any of them are going to go on to win the season. But it could help us figure out a solid winner pick due to the storylines that they would create by coming back into the game, right? Like Duncan would create that love triangle that we talked about between himself, Gwen, and Courtney. I genuinely feel like if that kind of happens, Courtney could be our winner. Now, if Ezekiel is brought back, I think he's probably just going to get kicked right back out or voted out again. And then if Izzy comes back, that could be a setup for a story with Owen, who in this episode, before Izzy got taken away, he was planning on breaking up with her because she's so crazy. But then he immediately regretted it when she got taken by the military. So maybe Izzy coming back would cause him to rekindle that relationship. And then eventually he would get sent home because he's already won. And plus, like, Alejandro hates Owen. So Owen's not my winner pick. It is very interesting to me that Noah's still in the game, though. And we've been seeing him more and more now that the numbers are dwindling. He just still doesn't have a story attached to him, right? Then someone who does have a story attached to them is Cody and Sierra. They have their whole, she's in love with him, he hates her, she's obsessed with him, he's freaked out by her. It's back to Sierra being crazy about him and him seeming terrified. It's just spinning the wheels. It's the same thing over and over. I would expect one of them to go home soon, if not both of them. So if that's the case, and both of these players go home, Cody and Sierra, that would leave Alejandro, Courtney, or Heather for who I think wins the whole season, with Noah being a dark horse winner. He floats the whole game and then boom, wins it at the end while everyone else is acting all crazy. The fact that they're teasing a showmance between Heather and Alejandro has me thinking that they definitely make it to the final 4, but then eliminate each other in a super strategic showdown. Then, after they both get sent home, they like make out or realize that they want to be together or something. Dude, everything keeps coming back to Courtney for me. It's like an odd pick. But if the love story theory, the love triangle story happens with Duncan, Courtney's the clear winner. I'm going to feel like a moron if Duncan never returns to the game because I'm really putting a lot of stock in that. They've just mentioned him so much. He has to be involved somehow. So I am officially locking in Courtney for who I think wins the whole game. She's a major character who's been both heavily involved in season 1 and season 2, and now she has lasted pretty long into season 3. She's not in the forefront of the drama right this second, which is good because that usually means they're going to be going home soon. Then again, guys, there's a part of me that wants to just say, fuck it, Cody wins, right? Because Cody has been such a focal part of the season with the whole Sierra storyline. But that just doesn't feel wise to me because I feel like that story is coming to a close soon. And, you know, I don't want the punishment to happen of locking in a winner pick and then them going home. But I tell you what, If Sierra goes home soon and Cody manages to stick in the game the following week, I'm probably going to switch to him because he's another person that kind of fills that role of Owen or Beth in the final two. I do need to pick who I think goes home next. I'm not going to overthink this one. I think Alejandro will find a way to win the challenge, keep his team safe. So that means that someone from Team Amazon would go home. I already said that I think that the Cody and Sierra story is pretty much over. I'm going to lock in Sierra for who I think goes home next. And that could very well set up Cody as our winner. But I am locking in Courtney as the winner pick for right now, because if Duncan ends up coming back into the game, I feel like she has a clear road to victory. Let's go watch the next episode.
Nothing you've ever seen could prepare you.
Wow, didn't see that coming.
For the most shocking.
DJ drank a jug of vinegar!
The most revolting.
Shock all these giant clams!
And the most disturbing episode.
It's way out of control.
In the history of total drama.
No wonder my little cousins aren't allowed to watch this show.
Kind of on fire right now. Well, not with the elimination predictions, but I just watched episode 13, and guess who's back in the game? That's right, Duncan. Ezekiel was also kind of brought back into the game. Basically, he was Jack the Ripper in this London, England themed challenge. If he was able to evade capture, he would be brought back into the game, but he was caught by Owen and Noah. So he was promptly thrown out of the plane, but we do see that he manages to hang on. Ezekiel looks wild, by the way. I'm not really sure what his whole deal is at this point, but the show purposely points out that he is still on the plane, so I'm thinking that he comes back. He could probably come back. Speaking of coming back, though, Duncan is officially back in the game. He is on Team Chris is Hot with Alejandro and Owen. Sadly, Noah went home this episode. Really a bummer for me. I was beginning to think that he could win the whole season. I was about this close to locking him in as my winner pick, but, dodged a bullet there. Last time I said that Sierra was the one going home. Honestly, I think I'm way off. In this episode, Alejandro overheard Noah say that he did not trust Alejandro. That's pretty much why he was voted out. So I'm thinking that since Alejandro hates Owen, Owen could be the next one to go. But also, Team Chris is Hot just lost a player. Perhaps Team Amazon is the one who loses someone next. And then that could be, Sierra after all. But we watched Team Victory lose 5 players in a row, which means really either team could lose someone. They're not doing anything super predictable this season. In previous seasons, it was pretty easy to be like, well, this team just lost 2 players in a row, so that means that this other team will probably lose someone this week. Not this season. It's all a toss-up. Tyler is still in the game. He's just not really doing much. I'm thinking that he could possibly go before Owen, right? Because at least Owen is a staple of the show and constantly involved in the episodes. Well, you know what? I say that Tyler isn't doing anything. That's not true. At the very end of this episode, we see Duncan and Gwen kiss. Now remember, Duncan is dating Courtney currently. Uh-oh, that's not his girlfriend. The love triangle has officially kicked off, guys. I nailed it. I feel really proud of myself for figuring this out. Tyler, at the end of the episode, sees them kiss, which means one of two things, right? Maybe Tyler, in the next episode, tells everyone, right? Starts the giant love triangle situation. Or the more entertaining theory, what if Tyler blackmails Gwen and Duncan that he's going to tell Courtney this information unless unless Gwen throws the game for them, the challenge. So Gwen throws the challenge so that way Tyler does not reveal their big secret, but Tyler is an idiot. He reveals the information anyway. Courtney finds out. She's furious. That way, we have the whole love triangle thing happening, and then Duncan is pissed off at Tyler for revealing the information, so Duncan gets Tyler voted out of the game. I am officially locking in Tyler for who I think goes home next. But the big question, which is who wins this season of Total Drama World Tour? I'm gonna probably keep Courtney, just on the basis that I called this love triangle theory. Feeling fantastic about that. I feel like I finally have a grasp of what's going on in this show, right? Courtney, Gwen, Duncan, they have their whole thing. Tyler will go home because of his potential blackmail of Duncan and Gwen. Alejandro and Heather have their little rivalry / potential showmance. Then Cody and Sierra have their dynamic. Owen is by himself, and that actually gives us a lot to work with, because if Tyler goes home next, Owen is the only person that does not have a story attaching him to someone else in the game. But at that point, if Tyler goes home, then Team Chris's Hot would be down 3-5. So we would need to lose some players on Team Amazon in order to get things balanced back out. The Cody Sierra storyline, it's pretty much run its course. Let's say that those two find their way out of the game next. So if Cody and Sierra are out of there, boom, 3-3, it's all tied up. You have Courtney and Gwen, who would be at each other's throats because of Duncan. Then you have Alejandro and Heather, who are at each other's throats trying to win the game. If Alejandro is able to do some sort of tricky move and creates a situation that causes Courtney and Gwen to make a decision between winning the game and having Duncan, Gwen, who is a more emotional character, would pick Duncan, while Courtney, who is more competitive and about winning the game, would choose the game over Duncan. This creates a very interesting situation, right? Because Duncan has already won the game, which means he probably doesn't win again. Gwen choosing Duncan over winning the game, since her home, Duncan's probably not going to win. That leaves Courtney wide open to win the entire game. We would be down to Courtney, Alejandro, and Heather. Which of those three would be our winner, dude? Is it Courtney, whose boyfriend cheated on her on national TV? Could it be Alejandro, who has had the upper hand this entire season? Or could it be Heather, the villain who dominated both season 1 and 2, but didn't manage to win either season? Guys, I gotta stick with Courtney for now, just for the reason that I was able to predict the whole Duncan coming back thing, right? So if I was right about that, then I'm probably right about her winning the whole season. I just know for a fact that Alejandro does not win. The big villain of the season never wins. So that means it would come down to Courtney or Heather. And unless I'm way off and we do get a 2-time winner like Owen or Duncan or Gwen potentially, if you count both, versions of the show. I mean, unless I'm embarrassingly off base here, like Cody could win the whole fucking thing. I could see an ending where Cody wins the $1 million and then Gwen still rejects him. That would be really funny. That would be a funny way to end the season. Or even funnier, what if Sierra wins the money after spending the whole season obsessed with Cody? She wins the $1 million. Cody is like, well, I mean, maybe we could go out on a date now. And then she tells him no. That would be really funny. But no, I'm locking in Courtney. This just feels right to me. Let's go watch the next episode and see what happens.
When the contestants head to London, England.
I say hip hip.
And take on the world's most notorious killer,
Jack the Ripper.
They'll have to work together.
search for clues.
No one said you had to use your teeth.
Chat, we might be cooking. Episode 14. It is happening a little bit differently than I had theorized, but it is kind of coming true. Tyler knows about Gwen and Duncan kissing. So Alejandro tricks him into telling everyone, which causes a giant explosion between Courtney, Gwen, and Duncan, just like we said. But instead of sacrificing herself for Duncan, it's just the fact that her team makes it pretty clear that they're going to vote her out for what she's done to Courtney. So it's looking like Gwen is about to head her way out the door. But They actually win the challenge thanks to Cody saving Gwen from going home, which means that Team Chris is Hot is going to the elimination ceremony again. And I'm like, oh my God, are they going to vote out Duncan? And dude, they are. But right before, Chris steps in and he's like, dude, it's just getting interesting with this whole him kissing the girl who's not his girlfriend. We are not sending Duncan home. No one goes home tonight. So dude, we now have a Duncan, Gwen, Courtney love triangle, just like we predicted. And even though it's a little bit different than I thought, I do think that this ends up with Gwen being sent home by Courtney, Duncan going home at some point, and that sets up Courtney in a great position to win the entire season. That being said, I do have a new theory. This episode is making me look at Cody a little differently. Cody has a wild episode here. He wins the challenge for his team. He gets a ton of screen time. Him and Sierra have been in the same storyline all season long. And this is usually the type of story that would have lasted 6 episodes, then both of them go home in a wacky way. Cody is still in the game. He could be the underdog who manages to stick around and make it to the final 2. I mean, we've seen some underdog characters in the past, right? Like Harold. Why can't Cody be like Harold? Come back and become a major part of this show after really not being an important character for the last 2 seasons. Here's how I see it playing out. Courtney, Duncan, Gwen. These 3 essentially eliminate each other because of their love triangle. Sierra gets voted out at some point in the merge, after the teams merge, right? Probably because she's a threat to Alejandro. Then Heather eliminates Tyler because Tyler has become Alejandro's #1 alliance member. That would leave Alejandro, Heather, Owen, and Cody. Alejandro and Heather are only worried about each other. So let's say that Owen gets himself eliminated in a crazy funny way. Maybe he forgets to sing in a challenge or something. Or maybe he gets hurt really bad and has to be medevaced. At that point, the game would almost be over. And Alejandro and Heather are so intensely at each other's throats, they don't even consider Cody a threat at all. They are only worried about each other. This would let Cody slip into the final 2 because he's underestimated, and he could win the entire game against Heather. Chase, why would Heather be in the final 2 and not Alejandro? He's been the villain of the season. Wouldn't it make more sense to have Cody beat Alejandro? Well, yeah, it would. But you are forgetting about what we brought up at the very beginning of this video. There are 2 different versions of every season. There is a Canadian version, and then there's a version for the different countries like America. And the difference between the 2 versions are the final 2. So if the final 2 is Cody and Alejandro, then that means, let's just say in the American version, Cody wins. But in the Canadian version, Alejandro wins. That's 2 guys. Every final 2 we've had so far has been 1 guy, 1 girl. Owen, Gwen, Duncan, Beth. The guy always seems to win in the American version that I've watched, and then the girl always seems to win in the Canadian version. So if we follow that same pattern, then that means that Cody would be the guy in the final 2, Heather would be the girl in the final 2, and Alejandro isn't in the final 2 because he is the villain and the show never has the villain win. Am I cooking or what, bro? Usually, I ignore the whole 2 different versions aspect. But since I do not know what version I am watching, I'm going to actually use this to help me predict the winner, dude. Instead of trying to get caught up in the character psychology in a show where at any point, Izzy can have a plane land on her head and then she's out of the game, I should use the story structure and what the writers have done in the past. The next question is, okay, if the guy always wins in the American version, girl always wins in the Canadian version. Chase, which version are you watching? Because that's going to help you decide whether you lock in Cody or Heather. I really have no idea. It's kind of a toss-up. 50-50 shot of figuring out which version I'm watching on YouTube. I think I'm going to go with what I know, right? I haven't noticed any real differences from this season and then the 2 seasons that I watched on Netflix. I'm just going to kind of assume I'm watching the American version. That kind of sounds like Ludacris's line in the DJ Khaled All I Do Is Win song. Last time on a Khaled remix. This time I'm on the original version. Heather winning in Canada. Cody wins in the American version. Ludacris's real name is Chris Bridges. I'm not making that up. What's my name? You can call me Luda Chase. I do hope all of my theorizing is correct, right? Like if Cody goes home next episode, that sucks because I just did all this whole like Sherlock Mind Palace picking winner thing. I'm actually officially locking in Cody for who I think wins this whole game. Call me crazy. I think he could do it. Now, if he goes home next episode, I'm going to look like an idiot in front of all my friends. All 200,000 of you. I'm just kidding. I don't think I'll hit 200,000 subscribers by the time this video drops. But we will be pretty close. So, you know, if you're not subscribed, maybe hit the button. So we know who we have locked in for who we think's winning the whole game. It's time to pick who we think goes home next. I want to say that it's either going to be Duncan or Gwen. But this show is a comedy. And it would be very funny if out of the 3 people in a love triangle, the one that gets sent home is the one that did nothing wrong. I also have to account for the merge. That could happen at any moment, right? Which means that the teams go away, every person for themselves, which means that I don't have to be like, well, this team has 4, this one has 5. Maybe that means this one loses someone next. Like, it could be a free-for-all. But we have gotten to the point of the season where the numbers, we can kind of try to like role play this and see if we can figure out who votes who at the next elimination ceremony. Let's say since Team Amazon has more players than Team Chris is Hot, let's say that they lose, they have to send someone home. I'm assuming it's going to be someone in this love triangle. So it's either Gwen or Courtney. Courtney will vote for Gwen. Gwen will vote for Courtney. Sierra said that she was going to vote Gwen because, you know, she's trying to steal someone's man and she doesn't agree with that. Then Cody would never vote out Gwen. He loves her too much. So he would vote for Courtney. And maybe since Cody has so much influence over Sierra, he could convince her to save Gwen. That would mean Courtney goes home. So that's what I'm going to lock in. I feel like we did a pretty good job of role-playing the numbers there. Now it just has to line up for us. Let's go watch the next episode.
When the contestants travel to Athens, Greece.
So, who's going in?
And compete in their own Olympics.
Victory is at hand.
It's no guts, no glory.
I'm so scared. I really don't need to see Owen's gut. And I definitely don't need to see this.
All right, time to drop the laundry.
All right, dude, episode 15. This episode's all about Area 51. It's all about aliens. A few big things happen here. So Duncan and Gwen kiss again. Right. Courtney starts flirting with Tyler to make Duncan jealous. Then the big thing that happens is that once again, the Amazons win the challenge, meaning they still have all 5 players. Did not see that coming. Team Chris is Hot has to vote someone out again, and they vote Tyler. Chase, I thought you said in the last section that Tyler had become Alejandro's #1 alliance member. Why would he vote Tyler out? Well, Duncan made a deal with Alejandro during the episode in the challenge to save his life from a face-eating alien. In exchange, for not voting Duncan out for this elimination. Now, that does kind of suck for us because I really want to get a few more correct elimination predictions, but it is okay. We still have plenty of opportunities. And look, guys, I'm feeling good about my Cody pick. I do think that I'm going to keep him as my winner pick. Surely Team Amazon loses someone next episode. It's 5-3, and we're getting close to the merge. Truthfully, I do not think that Heather or Cody are going anywhere anytime soon. I could definitely see any of Sierra, Gwen, or Courtney going home in the foreseeable future. But there's also that question, man. What if Chris is hot, Team Chris is hot, loses again? It would have to be Owen going home. Alejandro hates Owen, and Duncan is a bigger threat, but the teams could merge at any moment, which would mean that the teams don't even matter. So I really do think it's between Owen and Courtney for who gets eliminated next. It's really a toss-up. Let's just flip a coin to see who goes. Let's do Owen is heads and Courtney is tails. Alexa, flip a coin. It's heads. We're going with heads. Let's go watch the next episode.
Welcome to the Outback, mate.
Now go! Home of the lethal dingo dog.
Did he say lethal? And his natural enemies, the kangaroo, the emu, and the sheep.
Start shearing!
For centuries, they've destroyed each other.
It is a thrilling combination.
We did it in 30 minutes.
Episode 16. I can't even be mad about that coin flip, dude. I wouldn't have gotten the elimination either way. Gwen went home, dude. Gwen! This was an Australian episode. The challenge was a 2-day race on emus up a mountain. Then you had to bungee jump off of a cliff, grab a sheep, shear the sheep, and if it has the correct symbol on it, you win. Team Chris is hot finally wins one. Someone from the Amazons have to send someone home, and this is where it gets a bit messy. You see, Courtney wants Gwen gone because Gwen stole Duncan from her, right? Heather wants Courtney gone because Alejandro has started flirting with Courtney, and that's making Heather jealous. Sierra votes for Gwen because Gwen stole someone's boyfriend, and that's kind of fucked up. Then Cody got brain damage from the challenge, so he messed up and accidentally voted for Sierra instead of Courtney. Accidentally. Maybe, I don't know. Basically, we had a tie between Courtney and Gwen, where they had to feed a starving panda, and the first one that finishes get to stay. Courtney manages to pull it off first. And you know what, dude? I can't even really be upset about that. It seems obvious in hindsight. Gwen is technically a former winner depending on which version you're watching. So it does make sense to get rid of former winners. That being said, Owen and Duncan are still in this game. Both of them are former winners too. So right now we have Alejandro, Duncan, and Owen versus Courtney, Heather, Cody, and Sierra. I'm feeling really good about my Cody pick for who wins this thing right now. Cody gets some great moments in this episode. He outsmarts Duncan several times. He even does well in the challenge until Duncan throws a dingo at him. If I'm being completely honest, Cody just feels like a winner, dude, or at least a final two finalist. Because if we're avoiding former winners, then that just leaves Cody, Sierra, Alejandro, Courtney, and Heather. Courtney's storyline pretty much over at this point because Gwen is gone. Plus, what have we learned about Alejandro? When he starts flirting with someone, they go home soon. Happened to Lashana, happened to Bridget, happened to Lindsay. I bet Courtney is actually the next one out the door. In fact, I am going to lock her in for who goes home next. Then there's Sierra, who does not feel like a winner. She's a brand new character. Her only real trait is that she's obsessed with Cody. Maybe she sacrifices herself to help keep Cody in the game, helping Cody win the season. And then there's Alejandro and Heather's rivalry, which will definitely take them to like the final three. But then the final two will need to be a total drama classic. One guy, one girl. Guy wins in the American version, girl wins in the Canadian version. I'm just going to assume I'm watching the American version. So it's pretty simple, dude. Cut and dry. Cody is my winner pick. We're getting close to the end, everybody, so it's time to just keep moving.
As the competition gets fierce,
may the best man win.
The contestants find themselves out of luck.
Incoming!
out of character,
Mateys, it'll be thunder and loads of fun.
And out of control.
Every host for himself.
but never out of gas.
Just plug your noses in fire.
Episode 17, and then episode 18 was an aftermath episode. But dude, episode 17, we came so close to nailing it. I said that Courtney was going to be the next one voted out. Sure enough, the Amazons go to the elimination ceremony. Everyone votes for Courtney. Chris does his classic move this season, which is after the votes are in or whatever, the episode's actually for reward. No one goes home. I was so close, dude. We've got about 8 episodes left. I don't know how many of those are aftermath episodes, but we have 8 opportunities. Well, that's not right. We have 8 episodes and 5 more vote outs because we have a final 2. So we have 5 more opportunities. This is what gives me pause, right? Courtney was clearly going to be voted out this episode, but gets saved by the fact that there's no elimination happening. I doubt that they will turn around and vote her out next episode, right? Just like pacing wise. So that means that either something is going to happen, right? Someone like Sierra goes home from the team, or Team Chris is hot loses next time, where I could definitely see either Duncan or Owen going home because, say it with me, class, because I've said it about 1,000,005 times in the video, they are former winners. I'm starting to just think that the writers of the show love Owen as a character. They just seem to want him to stick around as long as possible. He won season 1. He was in the final 3 last season. Let's just assume they want to keep him for at least a few more episodes. Plus, in this episode, we see Owen start to realize that Alejandro is the bad guy, the villain, which could keep him in the game for a little bit longer, right? Because that's giving him an active storyline that would need a resolution before he goes home. I'm going to have to say Duncan gets voted out next. Part of me also thinks that Sierra could be the next to go. In this episode, which was a Sweden-based episode, the challenge is a boat race that includes cannonballs and trying to sink each other's ships. Sierra takes a cannonball to save Cody. I feel like that's a great visualization of what I think her elimination is going to be. I think that she would have herself voted out before Cody goes home. So I'm keeping Cody as my winner pick. Truthfully, who else even is there? I mean, you could go Alejandro, who's the villain of the season. I don't think that's happening. I do think that the final 2 is going to be Cody versus Heather. But we have not talked about the Aftermath episode yet. In the Aftermath episode, they have a second chance challenge where a bunch of the eliminated players and former players like Beth get to play a game for a chance to win their way back into the game. That could shake up everything, bro. I know what you're thinking. You're shaking in your boots. Chase, who goes back into the game? Is it LaShawna? Harold? Tyler? Gwen? Guys, it's Blaney. Who the fuck is Blaney? She is the co-host of Aftermath with Jeff. She's not even a former player. She's just Blaney. She's definitely more of like a villain character. She seems to kind of have a bratty, famous person character. It's going to be very interesting to see how this shakes up the game going forward. Introducing a brand new player in the final 7 is just kind of wild. So let's go watch the next episode and see how it plays out.
Let the Total Drama finale catch you off guard.
What the? Ow!
See all Total Drama World Tour episodes from the top.
Great Big Apple!
And be there for every aching moment.
Not even a scratch.
Dude, I was so close. Episode 19. If you remember in the last episode, I was like, dude, either Owen or Duncan is going home next. I picked Duncan. Guess who went home? Yeah, Owen. I was so close, dude. I could have had another correct prediction. I've only gotten one this entire season so far, but I'm not going to let this stop us, dude. We can do this. This episode takes place in Niagara Falls. The challenge was marriage themed. It's important to note that this was also the merge episode. So that means no more teams. It is every man for themselves. This challenge had each player marry another one. So even though we've merged up and there's no more teams, everyone did partner up for this challenge. Heather was with Alejandro. Blanley, who is now in the game, partnered up with Owen. Courtney and Duncan get paired up together. Awkward. Then Sierra and Cody get paired up, much to Cody's dismay. Sierra then tells us that she was actually ordained online, so she spends the entire episode trying to trick Cody into marrying her for real, which works, which is so funny. And then because like when you get married, you have to have a witness. Alejandro makes a deal with Sierra that he will be the witness if she votes for Owen at the ceremony, which she does. That's how Owen goes home. This episode had me thinking a lot, dude. Like Cody and Sierra's storyline has progressed a lot further than I thought it would. And I don't really know how it's supposed to end. Like they're technically married for real now. Where do we even go from here? Does Sierra sacrifice herself for Cody like we talked about? Or, you know, maybe Cody just snaps finally, sends Sierra home? I'm also beginning to worry that Cody might not be the winner. But I have a big question, which is, if Cody is not the winner, then who is? We're down to Cody, Sierra, Alejandro, Heather, Courtney, Duncan, and Blanley. Blanley, obviously not going to win. Duncan is a former winner, so he's probably not going to win. That leaves us with Cody, Sierra, Alejandro, Heather, Courtney. Alejandro is the villain of the season, so that means I don't think he'll be in the final two. Part of me is like, dude, the final two might be Heather and Courtney. I mean, I could just be letting the previous seasons influence me too much because it's always been a guy and a girl, guy and a girl. Why can't it be Heather and Courtney? At this point, I've been locked in with Cody for a while. I think I need to stick it out for a few more episodes just because if Cody is the winner and I switch it up right here at the end, I would never forgive myself because it's like I had it, but I got chickened out and I moved it. I'm going to stick with my guns for a little bit further. If something bad happens in the next couple episodes that just make me think like, I don't know about Cody, I'll switch. But for right now, I'm sticking with Cody. As for who I think is going home next, I think Blanley will be going home pretty soon. She does add a new dynamic for everyone to work with, so I could see her lasting a little bit longer. Sierra could go soon because of the whole Cody marriage debacle. Duncan was who I was thinking was going to go home last time. Then Alejandro's whole thing needs to blow up in his face at some point, right? He can't just keep winning and keep having the upper hand and everything. At some point, it's got to blow up in his face. But I'm going to lock in Sierra for who I think goes home next, just because I don't really know where her story with Cody can go from here. They're married. I think it has to be her like saving Cody or Cody backstabbing her. There just has to be some sort of emotional end there. It would send her home. It would kind of push Cody into the finals. So let's just go watch the next episode and see what happens.
Catch up with your favorite cast members this season on Total Drama.
Let's just get this over with.
Tyler gets beaten up. A lot.
Not even a scratch!
Cody has a new admirer.
And a restraining order.
There's a whole lot of kissing going on.
Someone gets married.
I want a divorce.
There's a new Latin ladies man in the game.
I'm both humbled and intrigued.
I suck at this game, dude. I mean, episode 20 was a China-themed episode. I locked in that Sierra was going to go home this episode. Guess who wins the entire challenge? Sierra is safe and is currently trying to keep Cody from breaking her heart by drinking tons of tea that makes someone fall in love with you. Yeah, this is kind of good for me because that keeps the storyline going between Sierra and Cody, which means that Cody is still in the game for the foreseeable future, one step closer to winning it all. Guess who goes home, though? Could it be Courtney, who has been Alejandro's recent pet project? Could it be the newcomer, Blanley, who bribes Chef into helping her cheat in the challenges. It's both. It's a double elimination. I did not see that coming, dude. That means, oh shit. Oh, this is what a grave mistake on my part. Jesus Christ. This is so embarrassing. You guys are seeing behind the conspiracy wall. Oh God. Oh God. Now you guys know that I command stripped this thing. How embarrassing. You probably thought it was super professional, and now you know I'm a sham. I feel like the Wizard of Oz when the curtain gets pulled back by Toto, and I'm trying to kick the dog out of the way. Pay no attention to the 26-year-old man talking about Total Drama Island. There's only 3 eliminations left, and I've only predicted one this entire season. I was going to say I have to lock in, but I've said that so many times, and it's gotten me nowhere. Our remaining players are Cody, Sierra, Duncan, Alejandro, Heather. Next one sent home has to be Duncan. It is either Duncan or Sierra. Has to be. I still don't understand how this whole Cody-Sierra thing is going to end. I mean, this whole episode, Cody tries to break it to Sierra that they will never be together, that the whole marriage from last episode was a sham. He just can't seem to do it because she either won't listen to him or she keeps helping him in the challenge and he doesn't want to seem rude and potentially lose out on the help that she's giving him. Then at the elimination ceremony, Blaney tells everyone a bunch of secrets about what's been going on in the show. She tells Sierra that Cody has voted for her every single time. She does not seem to care. She just keeps drinking her love tea. So then she tells everyone that Ezekiel is still on the plane somewhere. Totally forgot about that fucking guy. Then she tells Heather and Alejandro to hurry up and make out already. That kind of exposes their strange will they, won't they relationship. The only thing I could really think of is that Cody backstabs Sierra next episode, and that's just kind of like the final nail in the coffin of we are not going to be together. Truthfully, I thought that at one point maybe Cody would come around and actually fall in love with Sierra too. It does not seem to be the case. I still think that Sierra might sacrifice herself for Cody to stay in the game. Or maybe if Cody breaks her heart, Sierra could get revenge and take him out of the game. But that just brings us back to our age-old question of if Cody is not the winner, then who is? I feel like the final 2 has to be Cody and Heather. It just has to be. Unless the final 2 is Sierra and Heather. I feel like the smart thing to do here would be to switch my winner pick to Heather, because no matter what the outcome, I feel like Heather is in the final 2. Whether it's Heather Cody, Heather Sierra, right? Then I would just need to hope that whichever version I'm watching is the version that Heather wins. But I've been so locked in with Cody, dude. And like, who would have thought that he'd make it all this way? I've kind of got to stick with him because what if he wins it all and I chickened out right here at the end and switched? I mean, I could fumble the greatest game of guessing Total Drama I've ever had. I'm going to have to stick with Cody. I am going to say, just because I think that there's a possibility now that Sierra ends up in the final 2, I'm going to switch my elimination prediction to Duncan. So let's go watch the next episode and see how it plays out.
You look like a cast member on Total Drama.
It could win you a trip around the world.
Is my missing tooth that hideous?
Watch for details on the Total Drama World Tour Who's Your Doppelganger contest.
I got another one right, baby. Duncan went home. I correctly predicted it, dude. Episode 21. Guys, if we can correctly guess the remaining 2 eliminations, we're down to 4. There's a final 2. There are 2 more players to be voted out. Which 2? I have been so confident for a while now that the final 2 is going to be Cody and Heather. But it would be irresponsible to not at least explore our options, right? since we're down to 4, we can look at every possible final 2. Cody and Heather. Cody, Sierra. Cody, Alejandro. Heather, Alejandro. Heather, Sierra. Alejandro, Sierra. Now, if I take the final 2s from the past 2 seasons, then we are probably looking for one guy, one girl, no villains, which would give us either Cody, Heather, or Cody, Sierra. Now, truthfully, I do not see the final 2 being Cody, Sierra because their storyline has been so closely tangled, right? We have to try to combine both story arcs that have been happening throughout this whole season. The obsessive fan and Cody versus the storyline of 2 die-hard strategists trying to win the game. Now, I know what I just said, which is no villains. And Heather traditionally has been a villain in the show, but I would argue that in this season, she has not been much of a villain. She has been more of a foil to Alejandro, who is the big villain of the season. I could be way off here. Like maybe the writers of the show break the pattern shown in the last 2 finales, right? We could get 2 guys or 2 girls. We could even get a villain in the final 2. But if we have a villain in the final 2, then that means that the villain wins in one of the versions of the show. And I just do not see that happening. I do not see a world in which Alejandro wins. Dude, it's got to be Cody and Heather in the final 2. It's got to be. I'm keeping Cody locked in. So that means the next elimination will have to be either Sierra or Alejandro. In the final moments of this episode, Alejandro invites Cody into first class with him because he is now focused on breaking up the alliance between Cody and Sierra. This could go one of 2 ways. He either gets his way and sends Sierra home, or Sierra finds out that he's trying to separate her from her husband and freaks out and eliminates Alejandro. I do think that we see Sierra go first. That would mean that it's down to Cody, Heather, Alejandro. Heather and Alejandro are so worried about each other that they let Cody slip right into the final 2, and he wins because he does not have enemies on the jury. Another thing that happens in this episode is that Alejandro and Heather form a final 2 alliance. And as I've already explained in great detail, I don't see that happening. So I think that something is going to go wrong there. I do think that Sierra is out next, and I think that Cody wins the entire season. Side note, this season has probably been my favorite yet. I didn't think that at first, but it's really grown on me as the episodes have gone on. I mean, in this episode, Ezekiel is brought in for the challenge. After all of this time on the plane, it has turned him into like a feral animal. He's green. He's crazy. It's wild, dude. And he's still hiding somewhere on the plane by the end of the episode. So that probably also needs to play in to my finale predictions. Is there a possibility that he gets back in the game? I don't know. He could be the catalyst of what breaks up Alejandro and Heather's final 2 alliance and huge showmance, right? Like maybe he bites Alejandro and turns him into a monster or something. I don't really know. The show rules, though. I'm having a blast watching the show. I know that this one has been quite a devastating... I haven't done great, is what I'm trying to say. But I really feel so strongly in my final 2 prediction, I think that we could end up pulling the W.
I totally got this, guys!
Total Drama World Tour. New episode tomorrow at 9.
The show's just playing with my emotions at this point. Episode 22, set on Easter Island. Heather wins the challenge. We go to the elimination ceremony, and boom, Sierra is voted out. I was over the moon because that means that I got another elimination correct. I'm on a roll. But then, After way too long of making me think that Sierra was voted out, Chris reveals that it's actually just a reward episode and no one is leaving. Insane behavior, dude. Who allows him to host this television program? The next elimination has to be between Sierra and Alejandro. I'm going to make the strategic move to switch from Sierra to Alejandro because I don't think that they would tease her going home and then send her home the following episode. Like, I feel like there kind of has to be a gap. How I think it plays out is I think we see Alejandro and Heather battle it out for a spot in the final 3. And then the final 3 would be Cody, Heather, Sierra. That is where Sierra and Cody's storyline can end right before the final 2. Whether it's from Sierra sacrificing herself so that Cody can go on, or Cody backstabbing Sierra. Regardless, I feel so confident in my winning pick with Cody. Let's just keep watching.
You look like a Total Drama World Tour character.
It sure smells like him.
It could win you a trip for 4 around the world.
It's the Total Drama World Tour Who's Your Doppelganger contest.
Visit TotalDramaContest.com and enter your photo or video. No longer than 2 minutes, please.
I mean, I was so close, dude. I was dead on. And then the show does what it always does. I just watched episode 23 and 24. 24 was an aftermath episode. But episode 23, dude, everything I said was coming true. Cody realized that Sierra is actually very thoughtful, and he starts to like her back. While that is happening, Alejandro photoshops a picture of Cody and Heather cuddling. So that way, Sierra will go scorched earth and vote out Heather. Pretty good plan, right? Well, Cody finds out about it, shows Sierra that it's fake. So they now hatch a plan to team up with Heather and vote out Alejandro. And they do. The votes are all on Alejandro. I was right. And that meant I would get another accurate elimination prediction, right? Right? No, wrong. Because Sierra has a birthday cake for Cody. And the candles on the birthday cake cause barrels of oil to explode the entire plane. So in a fit of rage, Chris McLean, the host, who I am no longer dressed as, because fuck that guy, he, in a fit of rage, sends Sierra out of the game. She didn't even get voted out. Now listen, this is very bad for my elimination predictions. Sure, we can all see that. But it's really, really good for my winner pick. That's the one that really matters, right? I'm not losing my mind or anything, right? Because the official final 3, we're looking at it. It's on the board. It's Alejandro, Heather, and Cody. We've already said it a million times, dude. They're not going to have a big villain in the final 2. Plus, in the aftermath episode, the eliminated players get to compete for an advantage for the players in the final 3. Courtney wins the big advantage for Alejandro. He gets a wheelbarrow. Cody gets a smaller advantage with a baby carriage. Heather gets nothing. The fact that Alejandro is going into the finals with a huge advantage tells me, story-wise, that he's definitely losing. The big bad guy who manipulated and cheated and lies, he does not go into the finale with a giant advantage and then win. That's not how stories work. What happens in stories is that the big villain has all of the cards and he's got the big advantage and he goes into the finale and he gets dethroned by the underdog. And who's the underdog? Cody. Cody's the underdog. So I'm confident that Alejandro loses, right? It's like in pro wrestling. If you win Friday night in the main event against the person that you're fighting in the pay-per-view on Sunday, then you're probably losing on Sunday because you don't, the person who's at the top of the mountain, you have to come down from the mountain, man. You have to come down from the mountain. A good story is not that you're at the top of the mountain and then you stay at the top of the mountain. A good story is that someone has to climb up and push you off the mountain. And we know, look, guys, we know technically both of the final 2 players are winners. Sure. Yeah, we know that. Right. Because depending on what country's version you're watching, it's going to be one of the final 2 players that wins. I don't know which version I'm watching, okay? We just have to hope that I'm watching the version where Cody wins. That's okay with me. I'm willing to roll the dice on that. And truthfully, now that I'm looking at the final two, which is Cody Heather, it kind of is reminiscent to the final two of the other seasons. I mean, maybe not the first season, but last season, it's like when it was Duncan and Beth, right? So Heather is Duncan. Cody is Beth, right? Because Duncan won in the US version, Beth won in Canada. Maybe we just need to hope that we're watching the Canadian version so that Cody wins, right? Because because Heather's the Duncan, because she's not exactly a do-gooder, just like how Duncan is kind of a criminal most of the time. It's kind of his packaging as a character. Heather has gotten her hands dirty, sure, but this is a game for $1 million. You got to do what you got to do. And then Cody is a very likable underdog like Beth was, right? So this is all conjecture. I'm making all of this up. For all I know, Cody could get sent home, and the final two is fucking Heather and Alejandro. Then I'd look like a fucking moron. But there's only one way to find out, and that is to go watch the show.
Are you ready for the end of the world tour? It's the Queen of Mean.
I will destroy you!
Versus the Latin Liar.
I suppose I earned that.
Oh yeah, and Cody's still in it too.
As if I could ever win.
The gloves are coming off.
So long, señorita loser!
And the claws are coming out.
I am gonna smoke you for breakfast.
And Cody's still in it too. Total Drama World Tour finale. Tonight at 9, 8 Central.
I watched episode 25. Episode 25 ends on a cliffhanger. Because Heather wins the challenge and is guaranteed a spot in the final two. Cool. That's going according to plan. Cody and Alejandro tie for second place. So the episode ends with us not knowing who's in the final two. And I'm like, ooh, high stakes. I'm liking this. So I went ahead and just watched episode 26, which is the finale, right? So now we know who the final two is, and we know who wins the whole season. But before we break everything down, before we break down everything that happens in this episode, I want to talk about how the YouTube playlist that I am watching, turns out it has both endings. So after I watched episode 26, there was another version of episode 26 immediately after. This brings up a whole new question. Which version do I count towards my prediction? The one that I watched first? Or should I just pick the American version, since that's the version I usually watch on Netflix, and that's the version that I would have watched if it was just like on TV, right? Well, as we try to figure this out, doesn't even fucking matter, because Cody's not even in the final two, dude. After all of this time, I was so certain that the final two was Cody and Heather. I mean, I was certain of it. When Alejandro won the battle, the tiebreaker against Cody, my mouth was fucking agape. I was more shocked than Shark Boy going up against George Lopez. I was devastated, bro. I could not genuinely believe my eyes. The final two in this goddamn show is Heather and Alejandro, which means they both win depending on which version you watch. The first version that I watched was the version where Heather wins. She tricks Alejandro into thinking that she's in love with him, and then boom, backstabs him. She wins the whole season. Honestly, good for her. I like Heather. Then, in the other version, the same thing happens, except Heather accidentally wins the whole thing for Alejandro. Wild stuff, dude. Wild stuff. I will say, I really enjoyed this season of Total Drama. I'm glad I watched it. The final two makes complete sense, right? The whole season was about this competition between Heather and Alejandro. It's just that I messed it all up. I used my knowledge of the first two seasons and I let it influence my decisions, and I blew it. And I have no one to blame but myself. The show is great. The show is awesome. This is a great show. I'm the one that messed this up. It was me. I was just so certain that they would not let Alejandro in the final two because he's the big villain. And you don't let the big villain win. I would be lying if I said I was not devastated right now. I really thought I nailed this one. Well, this is just, let's chalk it up to another L for me. Okay. Thank you again to ZocDoc for sponsoring this video. Links down below for Patreon. All right. I'll see you next time.